Hey guys, Connor from Fisher Mac, and today I'm going to be targeting estuary bass here in Ireland. I'm going to be running through the gear, lures and tactics that I use to target these bass during the spring. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time and let's go catch a fish. I often look up, and when I'm fishing the mouth of the estuary where it meets the ocean, I feel like there's such a strong pull of the current that the bass just aren't going to be sitting there. They might be at certain times, but once the tide turns, I personally believe that they use this entire estuary system as sort of a highway. They'll use the current coming in and push straight up. So when I found that I was unable to catch fish there on the incoming tide, right down at the mouth of the estuary, near the rocks, sometimes it was a struggle. And one day it just clicked. I've been watching videos on YouTube and I said, why wouldn't the bass be up at the top of the estuary? It's highly possible. So I came up here and put on a little creature bait, and sure enough, Bob's your uncle, and I got a bass. So that was pretty amazing. And just that sort of, to me, is fishing as well, is sort of using the ingenuity of like, where are these fish going to be? And that's where they were. So that was amazing to figure out. I have lots of bass lures now at this stage in my life, from the classic sort of sand eels and heavy metals and things like that, top water, walk the dog styles. I don't believe that all of those work in the estuaries at all times. I'm sure you can absolutely catch bass in the estuaries on these sort of classic bass lures, but I do believe that in here, the bass are feeding on crabs, they're feeding on prawn, you know, smaller sort of crustaceans and maybe some smaller fish. So I put on creature baits as the sort of my go-to to start a session. That's the primary source of food, and if you know fishing, you know that matching the hatch is very important. That to me seems like the logical thing to do, and sure enough it works. If you look around here on the floor, you can see that there's dead crabs, there's dead prawns, and these are all species of invertebrate and just species in general that the bass are going to be feeding on. So why not match a hatch and go for a creature bait? So obviously lure choice is going to coincide with the water temperature. When it's cooler and the bass are more sluggish, I'm fishing something really sort of off the bottom. Imagine perch fishing, if you're familiar with winter perch fishing. A small creature bait off the bottom does the job. And it's similar with bass fishing, I think. But once that activation window starts, you can start fishing mid-water then. And when the temp's really up, I'd even switch to top water. But typically I'll approach the estuary at any time with the water temperature with a sort of slow moving crustacean creature bait sort of style. I love bass fishing for multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons I love bass fishing is it's light fishing. You're not, especially in the estuaries, on a day like today, with the sun out, the tide is just going to be pushing in soon. I'll often always start, as I've said, with a creature bait. One of my main go-tos would be the sleeper craw. Now these are quite expensive, but they're so worth it. They're the perfect imitation of little lobsters and little creature baits that are going to be moving through here. And as well as that is, it's weedless, it's completely the ideal lure in a situation like today. The action's phenomenal, and you can bring it right through that sort of brackweed and around those rocks where those bass are going to be sitting waiting for an ambush. So I'll always go with one of those. Alongside the sleeper craw, mega bass sleeper craw, I have the mega bass sleeper goby. I believe it's the goby shad. This is great. It replicates exactly what is in these estuarine systems. Little gobies swimming around, wading around. They're also targeting the little crustaceans. So they're in the same sort of area that the bass are going to be sitting in. And they're just the perfect little paddle tail to be using. Again, this is a great lure, completely weedless and perfect for bringing it through the weeds, just like the sleeper craw. I'll never leave the house without that. That is a staple in my lure box. So I got to go with those as well. Prawn imitation baits are ideal. I caught a really nice bass on one of these the other day, and it wasn't even the size of the bass, it was just how I fished it, replicating how this lure was moving through the water, replicating the prawns and how they move through the water. Irish estuaries are full of prawns. We have the common prawn here, and this lure just replicates it completely. It's got a nice bottom weight underneath, and it just flutters through the water so well. I'm not 100% sure the name of this lure, but we'll have it up here anyways in the video. But guys, yeah, this is such a good lure. Like I said, matching the hatch is so vital. So I'll always have one of these with me as well. I've got here the Rapala X-Rap Pop 07, and it's just a little sort of top water walk the dog popper. It's a lovely lure. When that water temperature picks up, I'll use one of these. Any sort of top water lure I find works great. I do have Chenko as well. However, I prefer on these estuary systems, when the tide's coming in, I don't want to lose my Pachenko because they're such an expensive lure. And sometimes a smaller presentation is great. This is in a white color, but you get these in a great variation of colors as well. So, you know, I'll go for a little top water just in case I see those fish hitting the top. I just spooked a bass right here at our feet. We were walking up the way to a weed bed, but sure enough, there was one right here. But that's the thing about bass fishing in these estuary, guys. You have to be so careful walking through here. These fish they can see everything in this crystal clear water, and you need to be able to be casting to where they are. Oh, I'm so annoyed about that, but it's okay. They're here now, so we know that. Let's see if we can catch one. Fishing for bass in an estuary is such a niche way to catch them, and I think the reason that it is so niche is because the window of opportunity can be dependent on whether you're in a certain stretch of the estuary. Some parts of the estuary fish better at high tide, some parts of the estuary fish better at low tide, some parts fish better with an incoming, some parts fish better with an outgoing. And so it's important then to read the estuary and decide when it's time to move on. You don't want to be standing in one position for too long. That is not going to be a really productive way to fish for bass. Study the water, watch what's going on, remember where you're catching fish. If you're getting a bass hit you at a certain part of the estuary, mark the tide, mark the time. It's important to know where the fish are going to be sitting in the estuaries because these are long systems. You're not going to be walking at the hull an entire day. So make sure that you know where you are and you can save yourself time, you know. Fish smarter, not harder. Once the estuaries are too low though, I will make my way out onto the rocks and fish the rest of the outgoing tide. When it comes to the gear I'm using the favorite X1 fast action. It's 2.5 meters with a casting weight of 7 to 21 grams. It's sort of my go-to all-round bass rod. It's an absolutely phenomenal rod. Sometimes on the estuaries I will fish lighter, but this is sort of my go-to when I know that I'll be moving from the estuaries up into the rocks maybe later on in a session. It's an absolutely phenomenal rod, great flexibility. It's got a strong backbone, so when you're dealing with fish in the weeds and stuff like that, you're able to, I wouldn't say bully them, but fight them in a way where you're not going to be worrying about losing a fish. Now that's something I've dealt with rods in the past, is the worry that they're just not going to be able to perform when you hook into maybe a fish that's bigger than you're expecting to catch. And that's where the X1 really does thrive, and just its reliability and its durability when dealing with tough conditions and tackling some of those larger fish. For my reel, for my standard bass setup, I've got the Savage Gear SGS8 size 4000, and I've got that paired up with a 18 pound braid with a light leader. Again, depending on the conditions of the water and how clear it is, I'll sometimes go with a 7-pound leader, which is quite light, but when you're using smaller baits and you want that subtle presentation, I'll go with that. But I might go all the way up into 18-pound, 17-pound leader. Again, if there's a lot of rocks and maybe places that you could cut off, be careful with that. Be wary and don't be afraid to change leader. Something that I used to be, maybe it's a personal thing for me, I used to be a bit maybe lazy to change my leader, but it's so important because when you're fishing clear water on a sandy flat, fishing with a thick leader is not going to always produce the fish that you want to. They can spook a little bit easier, so don't be afraid to size down, don't be afraid to go with a lighter leader. All right guys, so we just spent 3 hours out here trying to catch bass, but unfortunately the estuary is not going to be our friend today. What that means is we're going to follow the tide out onto the rocks, and we're going to be taking these off and switching them up. We're going to run through the lures and tactics that we're going to be doing up on the rocks as opposed to the estuary. So let's go see if we can do it. Okay guys, we drove a good bit down to get to the rocks, and we're about to head down and hopefully get some bass. I'm going to quickly run through some of the lures because we don't have all that much time. As you can see, the tide is going out and the sun is dropping, but I'll run through the 3 lures that I'm going to take down with us today. So first of all, we have got an Evo Bass pencil lure here. I'm not 100% sure of the name, but it will be up on the screen at the moment. These are great. I've only recently been throwing these out on the rocks, I haven't always been throwing them, but if you're fishing a really sort of shallow, rocky area, that's a really nice lure to use. It gets right in the gaps, and you can use a weightless weeded hook as well if you want to get a little bit deeper. Now, as the tide's still kind of up, I also am going to be throwing some sand eel imitations, similar to what I was just talking about on the estuary earlier today. However, throwing around some heavier ones. We've got the Western Sandy Andy, which is a personal favorite of mine, and this other one here, forget the name again, that'll be up on a graphic. But these are great. These are what the bass are feeding on down at the rocks when there's loads of splash and surf and fizz on the top of the water. Throwing these around is great. So look, I don't want to stand here and talk about equipment too much because, like I said, we don't have loads of light left. Unfortunately, the estuary didn't produce today, but we're going to go down to the rocks and hopefully we can nab a bass or two. Let's go do it. Yeah, fish, bass, bass, bass. Yes, that's what we're talking about, Billy. Nice bass right here at the rocks. Look at that. Oh, don't lose it now, Connor. I actually think I can swing it a bit. Woo! I'm bringing it up into that pool, just to be safe. All right, all right, all right. There we have it, folks. A beautiful bass on that Western Sandy Andy eel. It is Sandy Andy, I believe. Look at him flexing for us. What a gorgeous fish. And like, we were fishing the estuary all day, nothing. When you come down to the rocks though, it can be a completely different ball game. And that is a stunning fish. Over the moon with that. Different to what you were using at the estuary. We're using sand eels out here on the rocks, imitating those bait, swimming around. So yeah, awesome. Anyways, let's get this beautiful bass back in the water. I'm gonna jump over here. Beautiful, off he goes. Oh, he's chilling right there. Amazing, guys, that's what it's all about. We came out here, estuary bass, not happening. Follow the tide out, and here we have it. Bass in these rocks as the tide's going out. Let's catch some more. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. It was such an awesome day to get out, test out some new lures, some new gear, and show you guys the techniques that I use to catch fish. Nothing in the estuary today, but that's okay. We follow the tide out to the rocks, and lo and behold, the day is saved and we get a fish at the very end. So that's gonna do it for me this week, guys. See you next week.